Greetings and salutations and welcome to another edition of the YouTube channel Too Many Plugins. I'm your host. Today we're gonna build a Linux distribution with Cubic. We're gonna build a Zorin OS. The reason for it, Zorin OS being very equal to Windows 7, Windows 10 sort of a desktop environment. Quite stable, Ubuntu based. It has a Wayland in it, if I'm not wrong, and it supports Pipewire. I'm going to use Zorin OS 17.3, but the Lite edition, so that's not the core or the education edition or the pro version, the one of $50. I'm going to use the Lite edition, which it's still released, but in Zorin OS 18 release, they're going to drop the support for the Lite edition because they say that the core edition, the normal free edition or the education edition today is almost the same speed, so it's also very light, so there's almost no reason for them to continue to make the Lite edition. So there you go, but I'm going to still use this one. It's just a little bit lighter still on resources, so we're going to use the Lite edition. We got the terminal over here. We're going to start then with Cubic, and first I'll show you the empty ISO directly downloaded from the Zorin website and the amount of packages that are installed, and then we're going to add a lot of packages in there for audio production, so music production and graphical design and video editing. And then also put a low latency kernel over there. For anybody interested, in the end I'll put the project on my Google Drive down in the description. You can download it if you want to try it yourself, or you want to even still play around with it, or just install it and run it. The MD5 checksum is over there also, so you can check it out if you want for yourself. And you can also load it again in Cubic and then add even more packages, or take packages away and then write yourself a new ISO. By the way, anybody wants to get Cubic, you have to get through it's not normally available in the software stores anymore because it's not maintained anymore, so you need to add a repository. I think it's a PPA that I added, so it's in most Linux versions through opt it's not available anymore, and in many snap packs you can't find it also anymore. I think I got it from GitHub or something, where there was a link to an older repository where I got the Cubic from. But anyway, here we go, and during this we're going to talk a little bit about Linux and why Linux is not evolving. Some issues that the open world community a little bit has with the whole spirit of open source and free, so FOSS, free open source software, and the whole sort of religion behind it, that the mentality behind it, that sometimes is actually limiting a little bit the development and the adaptation of Linux. Linux is for the last 20 years all the time between 3 to 5% of market share, you know, and it never really evolves, you know. We're going to talk during creating this a little bit about that, about the whole Linux community, basically. And probably I'm going to offend some people, but I hope nobody's going to take it wrong. But I'm going to say a couple of things also that maybe some diehard Linux people are not going to like to listen. If you don't agree with me, then please do that also, and mention that in the comments. And even if we don't agree with each other, we can still respect each other, and we can talk about it, and we can listen to other people's opinion and other people's ideas, and like that we can have a how do you call it, a constructive narrative, and can have constructive criticism against each other, and accepting that we all have different ideas, different opinions, and we like different things, and but we can discuss everything over here, so you're completely welcome to react to it, and including negative reactions you can just leave in the comments. If you don't agree, that's fine also. We are not here put it on this planet to all agree with each other, so there you go. And I will, by the way, also, besides profanity or really things that are unacceptable, if you always keep your respect and don't put any profanity, bad words, or racist or kind of things in the comments, then I will never eliminate or block comments from people, because I believe in freedom of speech, and I believe also in freedom of speech that goes against my own ideas, ideology, and beliefs. So there you go. Here we go. We have Cubic over here. We're gonna run Cubic. I got already the ISO. So the ISO I have already downloaded just. And we create a new Cubic project here in Documents, and then the ISO we're going to take, I have it over here in downloads. That is Zorin OS 7.2 Lite 64-bit ISO 3.6 gigabytes. By the way, people, you can be completely relaxed about that. The images and the projects that I put on my Google Drive are not manipulated. They don't have any spyware in it or malware or anything like that. They are just directly ISOs taken from the websites of Linux Mint or Zorin or Debian or whatever. And the only thing I do is just with Cubic and opt repository add programs and kernels, and then I just create a Cubic creates then an ISO that I put over there with the MD5 checksum. So you don't need to be afraid. Nothing is manipulated in a negative way. This is just exactly how do you call that? The way you would get it, only with extra applications and extra different kernels in it. So you don't need to be afraid. There's you can test it out if you want. You can well, test it yourself and even check. It's open source, so you can check. Nothing is modified in there. It's the original ISOs. This all MD5 checksum. I've checked them all after downloading them. So and the only thing I do then is with Cubic add packages and programs and a low latency kernel, and like that I put them on Google Drive for people to experiment with, or to install in their own system, or to load up again in Cubic and add even more packages and do whatever you want with it. So there you go. So we go here. Zorin OS 7.2. We used that is because Zorin is also based on Ubuntu, so it works perfectly. MX Linux doesn't work. Ubuntu Studio doesn't work also. And even plain Debian, I've tried it. It doesn't work also. So these are already they're all Debian based, and Ubuntu Studio is it is based on Ubuntu, but it's running KDE Plasma, and it's a quite modified version of Ubuntu. That's why this program Cubic cannot open Ubuntu Studio, cannot open MX Linux because it's Debian based, and the plain Debian installer doesn't work also. That can also have to do with the fact that this program is already for a couple of years not updated to Cubic. So there you go. It doesn't work with that, but it works with Zorin OS, it works with Linux Mint, it works with Ubuntu XFCE, Lubuntu. So all these versions just work without any issue. There you go. We go Zorin OS Lite. Bro, we have it over here. We're just gonna give you a remix name behind it. So I'm already doing garbage over here. So that's gonna be just the Audio Visual Studio. And then the version we are running is what I don't even remember what kind of desktop Zorin OS is running. I don't really know if that's KDE or GNOME or something. I think it's GNOME or something that. But we'll just leave it like this. Over, yeah, it doesn't even say here actually which version of Zorin this is using. But we just do advanced. We do here actually the whole Audio Visual Studio. Let's see. I also place these things over, and then this one's going to be only AVS. I do it also like this. Some people don't know how to do all these things. So, or don't have a computer running that can run a Cubic, or don't know how to create USB creators. People that don't know how to create themselves ISOs or stuff like that. They can play along, or can just download it and run it like that. And please, anybody who's interested, check out the code if you can, if you know how to do that, and you can see that nothing is modified. It's just the plain clean ISOs from the original developers, from the original Linux distributions, with only packages added and a low latency kernel. Anyway, here we go. We're gonna do Zorin OS, and this one should totally work. Yeah, you'll see analyze it already. Yeah. So if this analyze project over here fails, then you know already the distribution is not suited for it. But just a second. Let's just install for a moment. So here we are in the terminal, and now we should do opt and then space list space I, and oh, I'm not typing, space list I. Okay, and now the ops list I, and then space, and then I don't remember what it exactly was. Gotta check that over here. Well, I cannot run this terminal now. I need to open a new terminal, otherwise I'll close Cubic. Okay, the terminal gets locked when you do this. What was it? Undercore WS. I think it was WS. Yeah, that doesn't matter exactly about how many packages it is, but I just wanted to quickly check. Only I forgot the last how do you call that, discrepancy in the end of this one. But this is all the packages that are installed. I just wanted to see the number. So there you go. These are all the packages that come default with Zorin OS 17.3 and then the Lite edition. So there you go. Okay, we're just gonna start here. First we do sudo opt. I always do get. You don't need to, but I always do that. First we're gonna run some updates over here. First we install all of this. Oh, already made a mistake here. Okay, but I wanted to come back to why I think that Linux is not evolving, and we stay always on this 3 to 5% of market share. And I think that has to do with a lot of things. And I hope that people are not going to take me wrong over there. But Linux is a little bit too nerdy and a little bit. It's almost like a religion sometimes, and people who are into Linux, they're a little bit anal about certain things, and they want to keep everything very nerdy. And also the free software philosophy is sometimes actually a little bit holding back the evolution of Linux, and also the adaptation of people to run Linux as a desktop, because Linux is always presented in a very nerdy way. And what I mean with that is in a very religious way, almost sacrilegious kind of way, that the people are into Linux, they talk about the things, and they do the things in an almost cultish religious kind of way. With who I mean with that is, of course, also the great guys the gurus that Rich Stallman and all these kinds of people that present Linux as some sort of a religion, and free software is the way that they sometimes do about it, and then, for example, also if you look at how mental the Linux community becomes when something becomes paid, or where there is a paid version also available, like with Zorin OS, there's a paid version of $50 where you are, basically just contributing to the products. That will be the same as you make a donation, and then people get completely angry to Zorin OS that they have also a paid version, but they have also 2 free versions, the core version, which is just as useful as the other one, have just extras, and then you have the education version for schools with a lot of educational software in it, edutainment, not entertainment, they have the one paid version, but that's then the same as other distributions also asking for a donation, and the whole Linux community gets then angry about that, but I don't see really a problem with that, and that's a little bit what I mean with free software, to being too nerdy. I'll explain the too nerdy part also, but the Linux world wants everything free, and we want always everything open source and free. But then we complain a lot, even about 3 things. We complain a lot, and that's actually kind of a shame, because there's a lot of companies who don't want to invest in the Linux platform because it is a crowd of people who want only always everything free. You see what I mean, and complain a lot even about free programs, and I'm against the proprietary, I love the whole philosophy of open source and everything free, and I'm myself a little bit also like a free person, sometimes a little bit of a pirate, not a pirate in the sense of downloading illegal content, because that I don't do, but in other ways I have a kind of a free floating mentality. But the problem with Linux is a little bit that everything needs to always be free, and never for nothing. We want everything. We want to sit front row, but in the theater, but we never want to pay for it. And this is the reason why many companies don't want to invest in the open source platform, and that's holding back the development. And of course, there are companies who are doing it. For example, many people don't know. But most Linux distributions and projects, they work on donations, so free software that you have, both Linux versions and even software like Audacity or LibreOffice or those kind of things, those free tools that we have, available, free software and GIMP comes all on a donation base, But if you want to know the real truth, many Linux users, don't donate any money, in Linux projects. Actually, who many times is donating and investing in Linux projects are companies, are multinational companies, that are then for us basically, and also for their own needs. Attention, there's many multinational companies who really have interest in Google is one of them, Valve is another one of them, IBM is one of them. Dell, Lenovo, there are many companies who have really interest in the future and the stability, also on server level, in the enterprise world. They have a real benefit by Linux being stable and good and being actualized and and being modern. So, and these are many times the companies that are actually paying for this free software, while we are all the time attacking them and telling we don't want proprietary software. But the reality is that many investments that go to the Linux world, the donations of the Linux users is very low, and the biggest amount of money that they get is many times from companies who are into proprietary software and services. So, you have to see that also. And then another thing is the religious part of it. That's what I mean with Richard Stallman, is he presents to you Linux and free software as a religion, as a lifestyle, and it takes that sometimes to real extreme levels, and I see that with other Linux users also. They take this whole free and Linux thing as a sort of a religion, as a cult almost, as a lifestyle, as and sometimes they're actually quite hostile then to newcomers and to people who are not totally into Linux or into the open source software world, and within that, we are also a little bit harming ourselves, and we are also a little bit putting ourselves into a bubble, and that newcomers have a problem with that bubble. It's too much a nerdy bubble where too many people are within that echo chamber of free software and nerdy behavior. I call myself a nerd also, by the way. Don't understand what I'm saying here wrong, but you have people that take it almost as a religion, and I think that scares away a lot of people to Linux and to open source software, including also companies and investors. And I think that we have such a small market share is because we are so niche and so nerdy and so having only our own little bubble, that everything needs to be free and nothing should ever be proprietary, nothing should ever be paid software. And this is why Linux is always staying between that 3.5% to 5% of market share. Take a little bit off here and there per year. Sometimes it goes up a percent or two over 5 years, and then it goes down again. It's all the time just oscillating between 2.5% to 4.5%, 5%. And I think that's a little bit the reason of that. And then another reason, I think also, and don't take that really wrong also, but that's the next issue with the Linux world and the open source world is stupid names. And I'm sorry I'm going to say this, but most open source applications have just stupid, ridiculous names. Many distributions have stupid, ridiculous code names. Ubuntu, LTQX, whatever the hell, and then it's like Numble Numbat or something like that. Just ridiculous code names, ridiculous names for applications and for desktop versions, and a lot of information in there that many people don't understand that, and they come to a thing and they see Zorin OS Lite Core Edition XFCE, advanced hardware support, Numble Numcat, whatever version, and then 5 or 6 or 7 other versions under it, and it's just complete, hocus. How do you call that? It's just a whole word salad of things that confuses new users, and confuses just mainstream people to go in this. It's also cryptic. It's also, nerdy and too much information, and that's information overload. Many people, they just want Windows 11 Home. It's that simple, Windows 10 Pro, they make it much simpler, even they don't even talk about 64 bits today anymore, because that's also again a distraction, in the old times you had 32 and 64, but today Windows only releases 64, and most Linuxes also. They don't even need to mention anymore 32-bit to be a 64-bit. They should only mention 32 bits when it is a version that still supports that, but it's all too cryptic. They make everything way too and I think that a lot of people just walk away from the Linux world, including companies, because it's also cryptic and so nerdy and so yeah, almost cultish, religious kind of thing, and also how sorry I say this, but anal some Linux users get to noobs or to people who don't understand it so well, you know. So I think that is really an issue. That, but anyway, let's keep on continue building this. Sorry for my rant, but this is some things I think why Linux sometimes is not evolving really, you know. Also these stupid statements sometimes from Richard, what's his name? The Linux guru, you know, Solomon, whatever his name is, you know, Richard Solomon. You know, he's over there and he's saying really outrageous kind of things, you know, that even probably Donald Trump gets confused about what he's saying, you know, and Donald Trump knows how to say ridiculous, crazy things. But Richard Stallman sometimes takes it really to another level of insanity about open source and about Linux, you know, and about GNU and you know, GPL license and all that kind of stuff. He takes that to really an extreme that I think that sometimes more ridicules the rest of the community than anything else, you know, for an outsider who's looking to that. But anyway, we're going to keep on building over here. Oh, sorry. Okay, Flatpak is already installed. So now we just need to go and see what I already installed over here. Okay. Yeah, I think that is not really helping so much the community and the evolution of Linux. We keep it too nerdy. We keep it too almost like a religion, and that is just for newcomers and people. Just also the names of all the things. You know, you go through Windows installation, you sometimes see names for things, and then you start seeing the description of the actual application, and you go like, yeah, okay, but why does it have to have such a ridiculous name, man? And I think in that the open source world fails really a lot, and also a little bit that sometimes we want too many things for free, you know, and not everything can be for free. That is, you know, we are sometimes asking a little bit too much, you know. Yeah, so there you go. What we're gonna do now is we're gonna install some other applications. That I need to go to the Brave browser for that. Need some links now.
Today I'm going to be taking a quick first.
Okay, so I need to go to Studio, Ubuntu Studio. Now just going here first install the Studio apps. Ah, it's already over there, sorry. Sorry about that, I'm really doing shit over here. I'm sitting a little bit in a difficult position here for because of the microphone. Yeah, so I think that's really not helping much. All those kinds of things that the community sometimes do. We keep it a little bit too niche and too nerdy and too no, and that I don't think is really helping Linux that much, or open source in general. I don't here just talk about open source. I talk about also other programs that are just not just Linux, but you know, open source in general. You know. open source project. Can also be just software like Audacity or GIMP or any other kind of free open software, LibreOffice or anything like that. So there you go. Put some PPAs over here. So first we're going to do this one over here. Yeah, that's not helping the community much. And what is a little bit of a problem also, it's like a package standard, We have now 4 or 5 different package standards, I think they should also start standardizing, making a sort of a standard more for packages, because and then also because you have many Linux versions who are a little bit all duct taped together also, and what you get, it's like sometimes you have to also understand, that that for developers is very different also, because it's not just that they need to develop a version for Linux, but they need to have a developer version who works on many different distributions of Linux. And because in Linux many things are a little bit duct taped together, you can have really discrepancies between certain distributions, already. I have had that many times, that certain programs, Linux programs even, that just work fine on one distribution, on the next distribution it totally doesn't work, or it first works and then the next updates or the next version that you get of your Linux, it doesn't work anymore, and then they jump again also, It's a problem also that in Linux they're too many times also jumping from Wayland to Xorg 11, then they're jumping from Pipewire, then they're jumping from KDE Plasma, they're jumping back to LXQT or to XFCE, and it's all a whole mess, man, and that's sometimes a little bit of an issue also, that, this is why also the compatibility is also quite broken, even with programs that are literally Linux compatible, Yeah, so there should start being some standards also, but that's just that's my opinion about that, but yeah, sometimes I don't understand why it's also yeah, how can you say that, it's so polarized, everything is so fallen into separate clusters, the whole ecosystem of Linux, and that's sometimes a real issue. That I think there should be some more standards, and I think if things a little bit are more standardized, that we also get much more compatibility for Windows apps, and also for Windows apps and Linux apps also, and that also much more companies are also willing of writing software for Linux or porting games to Linux. So yeah, that's just my honest opinion about that. Okay, so that was an update. Okay, so now I'm gonna go here. I mean, the Linux ecosystem is very diverse, but sometimes a little bit too diverse. Also, if you start looking how many different distros or Linux spins are out there, it's absolutely incredible. It's sometimes I think it's like between 4,000 to 5,000 different Linux distros and desktops. And that's also a little bit like, do we really need that? Is that all really necessary? And then also with all the problems that then also with compatibility and breaking packages and all the kind of issues that all of that also gives. So there should come a little bit more of a standardization. And that even in Ubuntu is already a little bit more standardized, but still, even between Ubuntu versions, there's big differences in compatibility. Also between some desktop environments. One thing runs really good on XFCE and it doesn't run on LSQT or something, So, or on KDE it runs fine, and on GNOME it doesn't run well. You know, that's also a little bit the problem of GNOME and then KDE packages, and it's a mess, to be very honest. But I like that, or I think it's cool. You know, it's everything is a little bit Frankenstein together. You know, all little components and little packages are borrowed from everywhere, and that makes the ecosystem. And it's really cool, and the philosophy is really great. But sometimes it's holding back the evolution of software and of Linux, and also the adaptation for many people to jump over to Linux and have also a compatible and a smooth experience. So there you go. Without complicating the things too much. That's just my honest opinion about that. Sorry, that's my rant. And I know I'm going to get a lot of negative feedback about this, because the Linux community is really like that. So I'm saying all of this being completely aware that I'm going to be probably attacked in the comments, and that I'm the devil himself, and they're going to probably try to cancel me out, but this is my opinion about it. And then again, I say I love Linux. I love the Linux community, but there are some things that sometimes I think that we should start doing a little bit in a different way. But that's just my honest opinion about that. So yeah, just gonna download this. Yeah. And the thing I think is also a problem is, don't take it wrong, but snaps and flatpak packages. It starts to becoming sometimes a little bit confusing. That is because you can, in many systems, you can install flat packages or snaps, and you can then install the latest version of a program. But then, for example, on Debian Stable, that doesn't support the latest versions. You know, and that's the real issue, is that because you can then install version 2.4.1 of Mix, but on Debian Stable that doesn't work. That you have to have version 3.1.1 or something, because it only supports older versions, and that I think is also getting a mess. Is that now everybody is, you have the apt-get, so you have the Synaptic, the old Debian installers, the apts, and then you have PPAs, the repositories, and then you have the snap packs, and you have the flat packs, and that confuses people. And then especially they install something and they don't understand why it doesn't work. It's because that flat pack or that snap pack is the latest version, but their Linux doesn't support the latest version and doesn't have the latest kernel. And this is a real issue, is this. And then people get confused, and then they walk away from Linux, you know. Yeah, so yeah, don't take that wrong, but that's really what I think, is that that's starting to get a little bit confusing. So after this, we're going to now install the Brave browser still. Going to install Telegram also. Then the low latency driver. Yeah. And we get all the time Linux gets more polarized. So many distros, so many package managers, you know, and you know, and yeah, what you get then, you know, it gets so spread in so many different directions, you know, so many different spin-off, so many different groups and distros and operating environments and desktop environments, and yeah, you know, everything becomes a little bit fragmented like that. And so we are now all in our own little bubble, in our own little echo chamber, in our own Linux distribution with our own you know, desktop environment, you know. And I think also that it's just not really helping in the long term, you know, the evolution of Linux, you know. I just think that, but that's just my personal opinion. I think we fragmented a little bit in too many different directions, you know, and now we are in a point where you know, everything is too fragmented in too many different directions, too many different little subcultures. But that's just my honest opinion about that. So yeah. We got to keep it a little bit. I think that you know, even Ubuntu when they came out, and it was in 2004 they came out, and I started using it in 2008. I started using Ubuntu. Before that, I have used in the year 2004 for some time Knoppix, Kurumin 3 Linux, but yeah, now still an update. But in 2008 I started using Ubuntu also, and in that time I already, you know, was wondering myself, why the hell did they call that Ubuntu, you know? And if in 2010 I just started using even spin-offs, you know, because I really don't enjoy the normal desktop of Ubuntu. That was in that time still Unity, I think it was, if I'm not wrong, or the Budgie desktop environment. So we have everything now here. Yeah, the Brave we have already. Now we go to Telegram. That's just the apps that I want. Sorry about that. That's the wrong one. Yeah, this is the one that I need to install the Flatpak over here. Yeah. So, and I think that if we standardize everything a little bit and make sort of more of a protocol, where everything should more or less not be like that, but having like a main base where then applications and the updates of applications and then also the compatibility for games, you know, that's also another thing. We can use Proton or Steam, but then we have Wine, we have Bottles, we have Play on Linux, you know. It's again also, and all of it is actually one and the same thing, but not. It's all like very confusing for many people, you know, and with the evolution of Proton, you know, it also runs in the back also on some modified form of Play on Linux Wine, you know, but yeah, it's all very fragmented and too many also below, too many programs that do the same thing and have different names and different versions, and it's sometimes, and I'm really into Linux and stuff, but sometimes it's also always really complicated to keep Flatpak run. Yeah, okay. Well, we don't need to run it because it's already done. So what do you know? Well, I need the low latency kernel. I never remember the name of it. I should now already remember just the name, so I don't need to search this up. But we need the low latency image over 24.04. We need this one. Yeah. So now we have also here the latest and the greatest versions. We do still sudo upgrade still after this. Search the auto remove. And hopefully everything is working. How did you fucking write that? Around therapy, it's like that, yeah. Oh. On my paint to do behind it. See if I can still put some other stuff over here. I think in Inkscape we have already also. There's a Blender dark table we have already. Entangle we have already. Yeah, G-Picker, that one would be also probably nice. Yeah. G-Pick. Oh, sorry. Not Picker, G-Pick. Oh! So install a couple of applications. So I got one installation, so I can take that installation with me. And this is an advantage of it, so you can really quickly recover your operating system. You can install it in other people's PCs, and you don't have any time in downloading and looking for apps and installing apps, and you know, so it saves a lot of time. That. And it's also an advantage if you come in a situation where you don't have an internet connection, then you can install in a computer a Linux with all the application the person needs and can immediately start working with his computer without having an internet connection, having all the apps already just installed, you know. So this is also a great advantage of doing what I'm doing now, you know. So that makes maybe then a little bit more sense for some people. This is, by the way, the same one, right? Oh. This server is always. See if he installs this. Probably doesn't want to install this because this kernel doesn't support that. That would be cool if you would do that, but yeah. Let me see if that works. That would be cool, but I don't think it's gonna work. But we'll try. This could, by the way, totally break the system. What I'm gonna do now, but. Yeah, you can't find it. It's not in his repository because this Linux image kernel 5.4 is a very old one. It's not in the repository of this of Zorin OS because it uses already 6.8 or 6.11 kernel. So there you go. Okay, let's go back to Cubic. What else could we still install? Let me just go here still through. System video production. Okay, so OpenShot we have already, Blender we have already. So we need Kdenlive Live Sales, simple screen recorder. Yeah. So yeah, I just finished it. I'll come back in a moment. Yeah, sorry about that. I need to go to the WC. By the way, what's also like a really an issue, and this is, by the way, props to Landuk, the real journalist of the Linux open source world, Landuk Journal, the guy of Linux Sucks. Props to you, my friend, for the real journalism that you do. He said this, and I agree with him completely. There is no such thing as a Linux community, actually. The word community is very strange to say because it's all like fragmented little subgroups and subcultures, and many of them hate each other's guts. So there you go. By the way, if you want to get some real good, unbiased, unfiltered, not manipulated by corporations or mainstream media shills news about Linux and open source world, go to the Landuk Journal, and he does a fantastic job and really good journalism. So send some love to him. Anyway, we're going to continue over here. So I have this already installed. Still, I'm going to check here if I still need to have something media playback. We got everything, I think, already. Yeah, bit studio I'm going to install. Put still a game there, maybe. Yeah, then I think that's more or less it, man. We can still install Brasero. Okay, those ones are also all already installed. Big calculator, others. Video production, we got OBS, okay, then live, yeah, we got basically everything. We have simple screen recorder already installed. Productivity, got everything also. Media playback, we got everything. We do still Hex chat, maybe, yeah. Yeah, the rest is already there. And there's many open source projects and Linux projects now. They're going completely woke. They go completely with leftist kind of crazy progressive kind of cancel culture kind of echo chamber bubbles that they have created, all of them, and they are very intolerant now to anybody who doesn't think in their political direction or their political orientation or ideology. They completely cancel out, and they even say that I'm not going to call them names of projects, but a couple of projects are already like being very leftist and very almost it doesn't have nothing to do with software anymore or with open source. It's more like sort of a armchair keyboard warrior / activist they are, or something, social justice warriors or something. It's all quite confusing how that all is now going. Anyway, I think over here we have basically everything also already. We should still do we have hydrogen also, element mass, yeah, everything. Yeah, what we're going to do now is still sudo an upgrade. So yeah, that's a little bit of shame also that now many open source projects and Linux distributions are getting very political and all about identity politics and stuff like that, and extremist leftist progressive ideology that I don't think that there should be there's any space for that kind of political stuff in open source and free software and in software development in general. But today they want to put all their identity politics and all their political propaganda into movies, video games, open source softwares, music, the cinema. It's movies. It's really crazy. But anyway, forget about that. I think the more that we are all busy with identity and politics, the more the world is going to go in the gutter, You know, identity politics is a little bit like Morgan Freeman says about racism. You know, how you fight racism is by stop talking about it, because racism is basically only a thing based on that you talk about. You create racism in your head. If you stop thinking about racism, then you stop seeing, you know, you stop seeing like that everybody is different and that you know, everybody is the same. You know, you start seeing everybody in the same daylight. You know, and I think identity politics is basically the same kind of thing also. So yeah. I think that a lot of, don't take it wrong, a lot of people on Twitter and on Facebook are professional victims. They're all the time the victim of all sorts of things. Equality, inclusivity, you know, diversity, equity, all that kind of stuff, you know. And it's just people that behind the keyboard are all day basically being professional victims, you know. And creating and you know, calling everything bigot and racist and everything that doesn't go confirming their ideology or their political views is you're a Nazi, a racist, a bigot, whatever, you know, a homophobe. It's all really, really, really strange. Yeah, it's a bit also like Elon Musk says, and it's really true, you know, is that diversity, DEI, you know, is basically killing creativity, you know, and I totally agree with that, you know. And it's a bit also like Asmongold says in one of his videos, you know, and it's really true. If you look to Ubisoft, you know, Ubisoft have created themselves a very toxic kind of culture, all because of DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, you know, ESG, you know, environmental, social governance, you know, and they have created themselves like really an echo chamber and a toxic bubble where now they are putting themselves against the wall and they're releasing just how do you call that, woke crap, basically, slop, you know, with all sorts of virtue signaling going on in it, and that is what's basically killing everything. So, but anyway, let me just check here if we have everything over here in the distribution. I think so. I think that is basically everything that we need. Still go quickly through it, see if there's still some app that I forgot or something that I would like to install, but I think that we are basically here, you know. We got already the Ubuntu, how do you call that? Studio installer also installed. We have already a low latency driver. Yeah, I think it's basically that we have basically everything over here, to be very honest. Yeah, Hypnotics comes already default, and that doesn't work in, that's only for Linux Mint. Hypnotic. Okay, then live, Kit 3, Crit, we have that also already. Yeah, I think that is basically it. And the rest we can just Proton Mail and VPN I will install afterwards separate. That's not going to install also from the repository of Zorin OS. Yeah, and the rest of these apps all come with the Studio installer. So just install the Studio installer and all these other apps over here you don't see, they're going to appear there also. So Simple Studio, every Telegram, we have everything already. Yeah, that's basically it, folks. I'm gonna leave it over here. I still install here just for fun. And then we install still also the C-Matrix app. Now I do sudo update. We do an auto remove to remove some packages we don't need anymore. Yeah, there's nothing to remove anymore. Okay, so we're going to keep it over here. I think this is more or less it. We have everything over here in the distribution that I need. So yeah, we're going to keep it over here. Okay, now we're going to build the distribution. That's going to take a little bit. I'm not going to bore you to death with that. But we'll build here the distribution, and down in the description, if you want to play around with it, or you want to install it, or you want to modify it yourself, or you want to check the code and see it's not being tampered with, please be my guest. Check it out, play with it, modify it. Maybe you don't know how to do this yourself, or you don't want to do it, then you have everything here already in the package for audio, visual, and photography for production. And also, if you just want to feel like tinkering around with it or whatever, it's going to be in the description, and you can download it from my Google Drive with MD5 checksums over there also. So there you go. This one's actually here showing the 5.150.124 kernel. So you can actually choose over here. Hey, that's kind of weird, that. So you can choose here a lower version of kernel. That is the low latency. That's kind of weird. Why did he install that one? Huh. Yeah, 515. This one could be actually also cool, just to try to install this, because this one here supports still old hardware over here. You know, I think I should go back over here. Wait, I should actually go back here and do again. So I gotta search for it. I'm not gonna. .4.026. It's already installed. Okay. Yeah, the only problem with that is it's like the next thing is like, well, I'll explain it in a moment. That. So these are apps to remove. They automatically remove, and you can select more here to remove if you want, for the minimal installation. Okay, then these are the kernels that are included. This is the boot up kernel over here, but what's included here also is the 5.15 low latency kernel over here. So what does that mean? You know, is that you can go back into older kernels, and it means that you get support for all the graphics cards and Wi-Fi cards and stuff like that. So, but we'll keep it default on this over here. Okay, I'm going to continue over here. We keep the compression normal. This is higher compression, slower installing and compressing, and this is faster, but the size gets bigger. But we keep it in the middle, G-zip, high compression. So we keep it in the middle. But if you want a smaller file size, then you can go over here. If you want a bigger file size but faster installation, then you can go over here. Now we're going to generate it. Okay, I'm not going to bore you to death. I hope you guys enjoyed that. It's going to take some time, this. So thank you very much for watching. And down in the description is this project if you want to install it or you want to play around with it. Anyway, catch you in the next one. Stay safe, take care, and catch you very soon.